Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Steve Merritt. I'm the director of the Housing Authority here in Norwood, and I'd like to welcome you here to this very special day to dedicate this building that we've set aside to educate and entertain and help our young people, the 2 to 5 year olds that are the beneficiaries of the programs that the school department runs in here. This came about as a partnership between the Housing Authority and the Norwood School Department. And as most of you know, and as we're recognizing today, the driving force behind that was Carol Poirier. So we're here to dedicate this building to her. I just wanted to say a few things first about Carol. It was not easy. It's kind of like making sausage. You don't want to see how it gets made. But someone asked me when we started this process of naming it if I had worked with Carol to put this together. And I corrected her and said I worked for Carol putting this together. And Carol, as we know, is a force of nature and made this happen. And it's a beautiful facility. If Carol had her real way, it would probably be about 5 times the size, but we have to work within our limitations. And she certainly did. And the staff that has grown and worked with her before and since have really kept the spirit of her alive in this building and with the young people. I want to recognize particularly Beverly Boudreau and Christine Tomasello, who are involved and were involved with Carol. And I know I could introduce probably everybody because we all have Carol stories, but she was just a real true force and a real true force of good for Norwood. I would recognize with us today, we have Paul Bishop from the Town Board of Selectmen. We have Superintendent Ed Quigley, former Superintendent Ed Quigley, who is not on our program, but I want to recognize him. We have, who else we have? I have 2 commissioners here of the Housing Authority, Patricia Starr and Judy Langone are here. And I also want to recognize the granddaughter of Phyllis McDonough, who was not only a teacher in the school department, she was a longtime commissioner of the Housing Authority. She was one who was educated at the Shattuck School, taught at the Shattuck School, and then served the Housing Authority, which now has the Shattuck School. But her granddaughter, Sarah Ryan, is here, and I just wanted to recognize Sarah as well, because Phyllis was quite a force for good in Norwood as well. Paul Riccardi is here, who's the Building and Grounds Superintendent of, I think, the world. Is that right, Paul? Pretty much, or pretty soon. We welcome him, and when we were putting this together, there were some final things that had to get done. One is right here at the end of this walk, there was a pothole there, and it was paved, looked nice, but it always got water right at the walkway. And between Paul and Mark Ryan at the Public Works, they came down, and you'll notice a little patch there, and that was because of that problem. And we appreciate that. Was just one little story, but there's plenty more. So without listening to me too much, I do want to introduce to you the current superintendent of schools, Dr. David Thompson, to say a few words.
Thank you. Just a few things. Carol, as Steve has said, is often described as a force of nature, but ultimately she was a force for good for all the children of Norwood. This fine lady taught, advocated, mentored, advised, and cared immensely over her 54 years in the Norwood Public Schools, and I'm in awe of all that she accomplished while working full and part-time here in Norwood. One of her crowning accomplishments, obviously, was the acquisition and development of this red schoolhouse as the Village Center and offering programs to parents and preschool children. Personally, I feel gypped that I was only able to work with Carol for less than a year. Many others will have funny stories of her work, her laugh, her passion, and her penchant for getting things done. One story I will share was when I was the very new superintendent here in Norwood. It was decided to move the preschool from the overcrowded Willett to the Savage Center. This process had gotten off to a bit of a rough start, as a mid-year move is never easy. Carol instantly offered to jump into the fray, giving her credibility to the work, and was a true asset in the final outcome. Not only did she help take some of the pressure off the new guy, but I also got to see her work and gain valuable insight into how the school system really worked. I also learned the power of a few key words, specifically Carol said and Carol thinks. Seriously, when one unselfishly dedicates their life to the success of others, especially children, they hold a special place in everyone's heart. To see the Village Center dedicated to Carol is a fitting tribute to her work, her emphasis on giving to all children the foundation they need to meet future success. I often say that working in education, you meet some of the greatest people in the world. I had the privilege to work with one of the best of the best. Thank you. I'd like to introduce the former Superintendent Jim Hayden.
Would Carol turn on the lights? I'm afraid there's going to be a downpour if I talk too long. It's great to be back, and it's great to see all of you, so many familiar faces and so many people that Carol inspired and really got you into education and enthused about what you're doing. I'm going to read just this short 1-hour speech that I have, and I'm sure she will not start lightning or anything. But I'm really glad that you invited me to what I call is Carol's house. She came to me around 2016 with an out-of-the-box idea of creating a center near the Callahan School where families could go and get tutoring for their children. And I looked at her and I said, "You're going to turn this into what?" And Paul Riccardi was there, and we were looking at boxes and ductwork and a little tiny house with not the space that you have here. And she says, "Yeah, we can do this." And it was a place that she had envisioned not just for kids to be tutored, but for families to socialize, for families in this neighborhood and the Callahan district to get together and to talk about parenting and to connect with one another. And she found that just so wonderful. But I can't not talk about Carol without talking about her husband, Mike, because they're all about helping everyone in Norwood. Anybody that needed assistance with food, anybody that needed assistance with clothes. You've got a clothing center at the Savage Center. And it wasn't just about improving children's reading and math skills. It was about connecting with people. And so I'm so proud to be part of that with her. And so it didn't matter that the dynamic couple had obstacles in their way, the Carol and Mike show. They were determined, and they found a way to help others, and no one was going to stop them once they set their minds on a goal. The house was put together with Steve Merritt's construction team, and he really had the vision and the guts and the ability to say, we can do this also, because you don't find this in other communities. And it really is special. But, you know, Norwood is very concerned about their budget, and I had a love fest with the FinCom, and we worked so well together. And so I kept saying to Carol, "It's not in the budget. How are we going to do this?" She says, "No problem. I will get donations." And many of you, your arms are twisted from Carol because she was so good at that. And she would get donations, and poor Mike would have that truck, and he'd be driving around town collecting everything that he possibly could. And see, she's raining on it now, so the rest of this I can't read. But besides the house, I also want to talk about the fact that Carol put together just an amazing program for the Coordinated Families and Community Engagement Program. It was a model in the state. And so if you wanted to know how to do early childhood education and you wanted to know what connections were and what kind of help you could get, you can go on the Norwood website and you can find a booklet that's got every single phone number and every single person that you ever would need for help. And so Carol was there to help us, inspire us. She did that. She's inspiring people now. And thank you, Mike and Carol.
Hopefully it'll hold off a little bit. We now would invite Mrs. Marcia Thompson, who's a teacher here now, to say a few words about Carol.
Kind of short.
You want me to hold that for you?
That would be great, thank you. And should I bring this down?
Yeah, if you get it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Marcia Thompson, and it's my lucky job to be the teacher at the Village Center here. I'm very good with little people. Adults, that's a different story addressing them, so bear with me. And I actually first met Carol about 1995 when I was an aide in the multicultural preschool that it was at the Willett. And then in 2001, I moved on to Westwood, where I actually worked for this grant, which was then called CPC, Community Partnerships for Children, where I facilitated play groups, such as this. And then I found myself in 2013, I began working at MMO Nursery School. The director, Helen Naughton, whose sons had Carol as their third grade teacher at the Oldham, she received an email from Christine that they were looking for a playgroup teacher for Thursdays, and so lucky me, I got the job. And one class we had there, we were there for 2 years, ran out of space. Carol was able to get this. And we have anywhere from 2 to 4 play groups at this location, 2-year-olds, 3-year-olds, 4-year-olds, and we've even had English language learners, multi-ages 2 to 5. I'd like to shout out to Christine Tomasello that I worked with for 4 years, and now Beverly Boudreau, this is her 3rd year carrying this on. What we've done here, aside from a play group, it's a mini class where the children come, they have free choice, they bring their snack, we have circle, we sing, we dance. And Carol got a generous grant, so whatever book I read over the 24 weeks, they get to take a copy home, they bring it back. We also have books that you can check out, not just for children, but the adults. We also have free books that are in the kitchen, and we have wonderful parent resources. We've created a community of caring at this building. Parents get to know one another. As you know, it can be very isolating to be a parent of a young child. So this is a social gathering for them. They make play dates, they make friends. We actually have families that are bringing their 2nd child, their 3rd child, their 4th child through this program. And it really reaches out into the community. And I would just like to say that I'm so pleased that we are here today, and this is Carol's house, and may it continue for many years to come. Thank you for being here. Thank you. Thanks so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Marcia. Now I'd like to bring up Patty Griffin-Starr, who's one of the commissioners of the Housing Authority for many years and was very supportive, obviously, of this effort. I would just also say that the Housing Authority received a statewide award a few years ago for this. Well, Carol was here. She came down to our conference with us and was part of that presentation, which we have at the office and very proudly hang on the wall. The other thing, I would just, on a personal note, I served as president of our National Association, and during that time signed a memorandum of understanding with the 3rd grade reading level group. And it struck us as housers around the country that the staff at 3rd grade reading levels can determine for communities and states how many jail cells they'll need, which is just kind of hits home. So when you go into here, you'll see books, and it's all about the literacy programs that go on that start younger than 3rd grade. So that it was very important to us. I have a shelf in my office where kids can take books in and out. We have the little library here that we try to keep full. So it was really pushed home for us on a national level too. So, but with that, I would introduce Patricia Griffin-Starr.
Thank you, Steve.
Let me get over.
I'd like to start off by thanking from the Housing Authority, Cheryl Murphy and Tammy Sad, who were so instrumental in putting this all together. We thank you very much. In spite of the rain, it all came out great. Carol Poirier was always so full of new and innovative ideas. She was able to think outside the box long before that phrase became popular. But more than just thinking about amazing ideas and projects, Carol wrote the grants, organized the forces, and made the creative and wonderful ideas come to life. Her passion was contagious, and that makes her an amazing salesperson for her projects. Her beliefs came from her heart, and their genuine goodness made people want to jump on board her train of ingenuity. The Little Red Schoolhouse, also known as the Village Center, is the embodiment of Carol Poirier. She wanted families in this neighborhood to have more. She wanted to help build a love of reading to all the families here and around town. She wanted to share her love of reading with everyone who was willing to come and learn more. Amy, on behalf of the Norwood Housing Authority, the parents of children who are educated in Norwood, and as a former substitute teacher who had the pleasure of working with your mom, we thank you for sharing her with the town of Norwood. She was a remarkable woman who made a significant difference to the children in this town and their families. It is an honor to dedicate the Little Red Village Center in Carol's name. Thank you.
So now I'd like to invite Amy Poirier, Kern, excuse me. And with Patty, we're going to pull the strings before we hear from Amy and dedicate this house to Carol Poirier. Pull side. Just leave it. So now I'd like to introduce Amy to speak to us about the teacher who taught so many children, but this was probably one of our first students.
Is that right?
Okay, I'm going to get you. And Amy has been, through a tough year and a half, losing both parents and a sibling. And this is hopefully help her with this, and we certainly memorialize Mom. And you can see by the turnout how many people really loved and admired your mom. So,
thank you.
Okay.
Thank you all for coming. As you can see from my reaction coming up, I wasn't really prepared to say anything. But I just want to say thank you to everybody for appreciating my mom and just everything. My dad. I just want to say thank you. It's so nice to see everybody show up. Hi, Rhonda. You know, and that's it. That's all. I'm not good at this. So it's been a tough one. And just thanks, everybody.
So we have some coffee and goodies. We'd like to give you a little tour of the house. And then Amy has invited everyone back to the OCC, a little 4:30 or so, for greetings and be able to talk to her. But we'd like to welcome you now to come into the house, take a look at the center, and have a cup of coffee with us. Thank you very much.